everybody. This is going to be week 29 for 3rd through 6th grade history. So before we move ahead, I wanted to take a minute and let's look backwards. For the last several weeks, while we were in school and now while we've been doing our school online together, we've learned quite a bit about this time period in history called the Renaissance. Some of the things that we've learned, let's just kind of go back and we'll highlight a few of the things. We're almost here to the end of our school year, and we will be having kind of one last project and a review over the next few weeks. So let's just go back and review real quick and just maybe get your mind going and thinking about a few of the things that we've talked about so far. So can you remember on the very first week of second semester when we talked about this new time period that they called the Renaissance, and how the Renaissance is kind of an age of enlightenment. They actually start introducing the word humanism into this time period. Can you guys remember what it meant to say that this was a time of humanism? We had, sorry, my computer's talking to me. I don't know if you could hear that. But this was a time, so back in the Middle Ages, people were kind of told what to think. Life was hard, and they grew up knowing that they would have to work really hard, would always be difficult. They would probably never move ahead or move out from their position in, remember the triangle that we looked at every week, that pyramid? They would probably never move out from that feudal where they were placed. If they were royalty or lord, they would obviously be up at the point, a higher position. But peasants and those that worked, they would probably never change. They would always be, that would be their station. And life was hard, and they didn't have any chance for education or kind of bettering themselves. So when it came time during the Renaissance, people's whole idea of life started to change. This time period changed the way they thought. Instead of having just kind of a hard life and everything would be, I don't know why it keeps doing that, I'm sorry, that nothing would ever change. Now they get into a mindset of there's more out there. Life can be happy and life can be comfortable. We can have some of those things that that maybe we never dreamed of before. And what was the reason for that? Some of the lessons that we talked about. What was the reason that for their kind of expanded thinking? Can you remember? So the very first thing that we talked a little bit about was the explorers, the age of exploration. So we talked about Marco Polo and Columbus and Da Gama and Magellan. Once these explorers were getting out and going to different parts of the world, they were bringing back spices, and they were bringing back fabrics, and they were bringing back tales and stories from different parts of the world, and it kind of expanded their view of life, and life outside just their little community or their little bubble. So the explorers were huge. That age of exploration was huge. Beyond exploring, they started to get these different ideas, but then the printing press was invented. And what happened when the printing press was invented? All of a sudden, books, music, and art, the different things became more available to them. There was opportunities for education. There was opportunities for learning because they could have a book to read. And so different, ways of life and different styles and things, and music and drama and books and poetry all became available to everybody instead of just the very, very rich or the very elite. The printing press was huge. So we spent quite a bit of time talking about that and how important that was. Now they're starting to see that life can be better, can be happy, can be comfortable, and they kind of were enjoying the comforts of life. And then you had people like the Medici family that would support artists and musicians, sculptors, to make things beautiful, to bring art into the communities and leave those legacies. So this was all happening during the Renaissance, and then it gets us down the road farther to Shakespeare, where we learned all about Shakespeare and his plays and his magnificent mind, how he changed our language, the way we talk, and the different phrases that we use every single day. And then even into Queen Elizabeth that we talked about, her reign. We talked about some of the things that happened with religion during this time period, how it went from being everyone needed to believe and was told to believe this, into having people thinking differently and being able to have other opportunities for religion. So we talked and focused mostly in England, but we know that in other parts of the world there were different religious movements also happening then. So this is an exciting period of time, and you guys will study this throughout your lives, and allow all of the things and the things that we know that started during the Renaissance. So just kind of a quick little review of what we've been talking about, and hopefully that'll help your mind kind of get thinking about our last historical figure that we're going to talk about. So let me share my screen with you today. We are going to look at a quick slideshow. So when we talk about this historical figure, he's very important, very famous. So I'm going to show you a few pictures, and we're going to see if we can figure out who this is. And when you know, you'll know. This person was born in Italy, and we know from talking about art, sculpture, science, astronomy, this is where a lot of the thinking was happening, was in Italy. A lot of the big changes in ways of thinking was happening in Italy. He was from an area outside of Florence. He was an engineer. Man, he thought up some incredible things. He was an inventor. This is a sketch that he drew of a flying machine. Now, we have flying machines now in our time, but back in the Renaissance, the idea that someone could invent a flying machine, unheard of. He was a scientist, loved to discover, loved to study. This was a time during the Renaissance where, and we've talked about, at least in my classes with art, that these different sculptors and scientists were fascinated with human anatomy. They wanted to see, here's a hand, what made your hand go like this? What, I can lift my fingers up, I can squeeze, I can make a fist, I can turn, I can twist. So here's a sketch of the anatomy of a hand with the ideas of tendons and muscles. How does the blood flow? How does it grow? These were great minds. This is where the basis of kind of thinking with medicine started to come, was during the Renaissance. So this person was very interested in that as well. He was an architect. His designs of buildings and statues and different things would sketch many designs, architectural designs. He was also a painter. He was a great artist. This is a very famous work of his. You may recognize that. But this one, hopefully you all recognize that right away. His very most famous work, this is called the Mona Lisa. Now, when we come to school, we see that cute dragon. Do any of you know who we're talking about today? This is Leonardo da Vinci. Now, he's very special to us because where do we go to school? The Da Vinci Academy. And so all of those things, art, science, math, technology, engineering, architecture, these are all things that that are important to us at the Da Vinci Academy. And so he's kind of our namesake. So let me pull his face back up. You guys want to see him? It's been said, he was a very handsome man. If I can get his picture back up here in a second, I'll show you. So let's talk a little bit about Da Vinci, and it's fun to end on him, but his contributions to the Renaissance for design and architecture and painting are legendary. He's so well known. So let's watch. We're gonna watch.
I don't think this was designed to be flown by a 500-pound robot. Wait a second, can't you fly anyway? Dear Tim and Moby, why do so many people talk about Leonardo da Vinci? Thanks, Analyde. Well, it's because Leonardo da Vinci is worth talking about. He was a sculptor, architect, inventor, engineer, painter, scientist, mathematician. Actually, believe it or not, he did do some party planning. Leonardo is probably the best known example of a Renaissance man, someone who excels in many different areas. The Renaissance was a period of great cultural and scientific activity in Western Europe, especially Italy. The Italian Renaissance peaked during the 15th century, which is when Leonardo was born, near Florence, Italy, in 1452. As a teenager, Leonardo was apprenticed to a famous sculptor and painter named Verrocchio. In Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ, the kneeling angel at the left of the painting was painted by a 22-year-old Leonardo. The angel shows Leonardo's incredible promise as a painter. Well, he didn't produce a lot of paintings, but his influence is still huge. Even if you don't know all that much about art, you're probably familiar with Leonardo's The Last Supper, depicting Jesus' final meal. And everyone knows the Mona Lisa, now hanging in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. The Mona Lisa shows Leonardo's mastery of two techniques. Sfumato, in which colors are blended seamlessly and skillfully, creates a smoky, ethereal effect. And chiaroscuro, which uses contrasts of light and dark to create a luminous, three-dimensional effect. But what people remember most about the painting is her expression, sort of a weird cross between a smile and a frown. Leonardo's career as an artist led him to his interest in human anatomy. His drawings of muscles, organs, bones, and even fetuses are not only really beautiful, but they also advanced our understanding of human physiology. A lot of what we know about Leonardo comes from his notes and drawings, thousands of pages of which still exist. Museums will often display a notebook or codex made up of these collected pages. They show Leonardo's fascination not only with anatomy, but with stars and planets, animals, architecture, geography, and fossils. They also demonstrate that as an inventor, Leonardo drew on his observations of the natural world to design mechanical wonders. Some of his drawings planned inventions for things that couldn't possibly have been built at the time. No, he kept them to himself, so most of them weren't actually made public until after his death in 1519. Even then, it was a long time before anyone could decipher his notes. Leonardo wrote in mirror script, which was written backwards. Well, he wasn't crazy. He just wanted to protect his work. He also started way more paintings, inventions, and other projects that he ever finished. If Leonardo had published his notes when he wrote them, they would have revolutionized European science. He understood better than anyone for more than a century afterward how important observation was. That ability to observe led him to actually anticipate scientific discoveries like the circulation of blood, the movement of the eye, and the effect of the moon on the tides, as well as countless inventions from the car to the tank to solar heat collectors. In fact, you may be interested to learn that the first design for a robot was drawn by Leonardo da Vinci. What? How did you know that? Oh, no way.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. You guys have learned one thing about me over these last few weeks is that I get a huge kick out of the brain pop videos. I love Tim and Moby. So a couple of facts about Leonardo that we can highlight just a little bit. One, when we talk about all of his different drawings, there's like something hanging in my hair right there. Just something hanging there. He had hundreds and hundreds of notebooks full of designs of his observations, of his questions, just things he thought. So we talk about this a lot in science, but when you guys are trying to problem solve and you're doing some observations, you really are letting your brain, just kind of go there and think about different things. And that's the way Leonardo worked. He had one thought which led to another thought which led to another thought. He was just such a keen observer of things. How could I make something work better? How could things move more smoothly? What could I do? What could I invent? So I hope you guys caught in the video how it said he had sketches and drawings of things that there's no way could have been invented during his time, but that ended up being invented or being discovered or being thought through later on in life when kind of the technology and life caught up to his thinking. Isn't that amazing? I think he's amazing. One cool thing that they just brought out is how he wrote in mirror script. So in your at a glance supply list on the big Google Drive where you get the links to all of the videos, there is a really cool link that you guys can go into. Let me show you. Let's get out of the brain pop. and the Who Am I. Where is our mirror? Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is really cool, and I'll have the link here, but this is an experiment where you can see with your own eyes here his mirror writing. Now, some people think that the reason that he wrote like this is because he was left-handed. It's, I guess, pretty well known that he was at least ambidextrous, but that most people thought he was left-handed. And those of you that are left-handed, you know, when you write, a lot of times as you're writing, you'll drag across the paper and it will, you know, you'll end up smearing the ink or smearing your work. So as a left-handed person, he kind of developed his own little shorthand, and it was like a mirror writing. So let's see. Actually, these 3 points right here I thought were interesting. Nobody really knows why he did it, but they said it may have been harder for people to steal his ideas. Can you imagine being a person like Leonardo with all of these great ideas in your head, and you knew that this was something that you could invent and it was your idea? You definitely wouldn't want anyone to steal that or take credit for something that you thought of. But right here in the third one, it says maybe he's trying to prevent smudging. So those of you that are left-handed in the crowd, you guys can say, yes, I know that. So down below, as you scroll down, you'll be able to try out. You can type in here in this box. So I typed something out for you. So if you look over here, this is what that phrase would look like in mirror writing. So I said, I'm so proud of each one of you for working hard and staying on task. You guys are all awesome. Really, truly, I'm so proud of you. And I've loved seeing the things that you've sent me with your observations and your different work. So there's my special message. But look over here. Look how cool that looks backwards. So you guys are welcome to try this out. You can open up that link, and then just over here, you just type in that would be Leonardo da Vinci, and you guys can see what it looks like. If you want to take this experiment one step further, you can get just a piece of paper and a pen, and you can sit in front of a mirror, or you can have someone hold a mirror in front of you and practice writing. And then can you do it in the reverse? Can you write it in the mirror so that when it came out, you're looking at it correctly? Now this is doing it backwards for us, but could you write Leonardo da Vinci backwards so that when you held it up in the mirror, it looked correct? So that's kind of a fun thing that you guys can do later, just for a fun activity. So that will be linked on the additional supplies. It's just a link to that page. Isn't that cool though? I thought that was really awesome. Another thing that we're gonna do here is we're gonna talk a little bit about his inventions. So many inventions. I told you, or I showed you in our slide, the little sketch of a flying machine. Can you imagine being in the Renaissance and having that guy, that neighbor over there, Leonardo from Vinci? Did you guys know that's how his name came about? Vinci was just a province in Italy. So it would be like saying Leonardo of Vinci. So maybe I would be Mrs. Jensen of Davis, or you would be Bob of Centerville. So Leonardo da Vinci. Can you imagine being his neighbor or his friend? And he had all these wild ideas about how he was gonna, did you know that there's blood that flows through our veins? Or I think that I can build a machine that can fly. So he's a very creative guy. So I'm gonna show you a video right now. And it's gonna show Leonardo da Vinci's top 7 inventions. Now I want you to be thinking while you're watching this, because what we're gonna do for the next several weeks for the end of school is you are going to become the inventor. You're going to come up with your own invention, and we're just using Leonardo as kind of a role model or an example or kind of an inspiration for us about how we can think outside the box, how we can solve a problem, how we can see something that we think maybe we could do better, or we could make it easier for us, and think like Leonardo da Vinci and create an invention. So let's watch a video with Leonardo's top 7 inventions. Go back, looks like it started there.
These are my top 7 picks from Leonardo da Vinci's inventions. Number 7, the self-propelled cart. The self-propelled cart was one of the many inventions that Leonardo created dealing with locomotion and transportation. Leonardo's cart was powered by coiled springs and it also featured steering and brake capabilities. When the brake was released, the car would propel forward. Da Vinci's kart design was so ahead of its time that its exact workings baffled scholars until late in the 20th century. But in 2006, Italy's Institute and Museum of the History of Science in Florence built a working model based on Da Vinci's design, and, to the surprise of many, the kart actually worked. Number 6. The machine gun. The way Leonardo da Vinci saw it, the problem with the cannons of the time was that they took far too long to load. His solution to that problem was to build multi-barreled guns that could be loaded and fired simultaneously. While one set of cannons was being fired, another set would be cooling and the third set could be loaded. This system allowed soldiers to repeatedly fire without interruption. Leonardo da Vinci's design for the 33-barreled organ is generally regarded as the basis for the modern-day machine gun, a weapon that didn't really develop for commercial use until the 19th century. Number 5. The parachute. Da Vinci made a sketch of the invention with this accompanying description. If a man had a tent made of linen, of which the apertures or openings have all been stopped up, and it be 12 braccia, which is about 23 feet across, and 12 in depth, he will be able to throw himself down from any great height without suffering any injury. Daredevil Adrian Nichols constructed a prototype based on Da Vinci's design and tested it. Despite skepticism from experts, Da Vinci's design worked as intended, and Nichols even noted that it had a smoother ride than the modern parachute. Number 4. The Robot Knight. Designed for a pageant in Milan, which the Duke had put Leonardo in charge of overseeing, the Robot Knight consisted of a knight suit filled with gears and wheels that were connected to an elaborate pulley and cable system. Through these mechanisms, Da Vinci's Robot Knight was capable of independent motion, sitting down, standing up, moving its head, and lifting its visor. Using several different Da Vinci drawings as blueprints, roboticist Marc Rochim built a prototype of the Robotic Knight in 2002, which was able to walk and wave. Number 3. The diving suit. Originally designed as a way of warding off invading ships, Da Vinci's diving suit would allow men to engage in a little underwater sabotage by cutting holes in the bottom of the enemy's hull. The leather diving suit was equipped with a bag-like mask that went over the diver's head. Attached to the mask, around the nose area, were 2 cane tubes that led up to a cork diving bell floating on the surface. Unfortunately, the design, complete with breathing hose and glass goggles, wasn't needed at the time, and would only find itself submerged in planning stages. Number 2. The armored tank. The precursor to the modern tank, Leonardo da Vinci's armored car invention was capable of moving in any direction and was equipped with a large number of weapons. The platform was covered by a large protective cover reinforced with metal plates, which was to be slanted to better deflect enemy fire. The motion of the machine was to be powered by 8 men inside of the tank who would constantly turn cranks to spin the wheels. Despite its elaborate design, Da Vinci's tank has a major flaw. The powering cranks went in opposite directions. This made forward motion impossible. Scholars suggest that Da Vinci, a pacifist at heart, may have inserted the flaw intentionally to discourage the war machine from ever being built. And number 1, the flying machine. One of Da Vinci's most famous inventions, the flying machine, also known as the ornithopter, ideally displays his powers of observation and imagination. It had a wingspan that exceeded 33 feet, and the frame was to be made of pine covered in raw silk to create a light but sturdy membrane. To power the wings, the pilot would pedal a crank connected to a rod and pulley system. The machine also had a hand crank for increased energy output and a headpiece for steering. Unfortunately, while the flying machine may have flown once it was in the air, a person could never have created enough power to get the device off the ground. You are no longer ignorant concerning these matters. Now you know. Thank you.
Now you know. Okay, you guys, seriously. Now, when we think about the inventions that have happened over the last, you guys are anywhere from 8 to 12 years old, maybe some of you are 7. Just the inventions that maybe you've seen in your lifetime, or things that you're aware of that were created or invented or designed within the last maybe 10 or 20 years that you know about. I mean, things like, you guys know that when maybe your grandmas and grandpas maybe your great grandmas and grandpas were alive. They didn't have TV. They 100% didn't have computers. Even when I was a little girl, we didn't have cell phones. So you guys know of a lot of inventions that were created in the last century or even in the last like 20, 30, 40 years. You guys are using them every single day. But back in the Renaissance, guys, they farmed. They, a flying machine, a robot, what they call it, a robot knight. What? I mean, his mind. Can you guys just think for a second about what an incredible mind Leonardo da Vinci had to be able to have, these thoughts and how he could make things different, how he could make life better. So many things that could be created that we look at now and think, oh, well, yeah, of course there's a flying machine, or of course there's, different kinds of tanks or things like that. So, but this was pretty groundbreaking. Now, did you guys have a favorite? I think I liked the robot knight, kind of like Moby. You guys know I love him. So think about maybe what your favorite was. So those are just a few. Those are just the top 7 of Da Vinci's favorite or most famous inventions. So here's what's going to happen for the next 3 weeks of our ending of our history program. So this week I am going to give you your assignment. And this assignment's going to take you as long as you need, but it needs to be completed by May 18th. Sounds like a long way away. It's not really that far away. You are going to be the inventor. Now, look around your house, look around your life. Think about maybe some of your chores. Think about some things that you observe every day. What happens every day? What are some things that need to happen? I want you to start brainstorming. You're going to be a brainstorming inventor, scientist, problem solver. How could you have certain, is there anything that you could do that would make life easier? I'm just gonna, let's see. Is there a problem in your everyday life? So here's one. This is funny. So do you hate putting your socks on? Do you hate putting your socks on? Maybe you could come up with an invention that would make that like super easy. How many of you guys have watched, Beauty and the Beast? Her dad, he was an inventor. You guys have seen the opening of when Belle starts to talk to her dad. He's a crazy inventor. In fact, they call him Crazy Old Maurice. What about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Remember him and how they create the flying car? But think about all the inventions that were in his house. Those are 2 examples that just popped out to me. Anything else? I think there's probably all kinds of movies and books that you've read where there's an inventor as the main character. And think about why some of those inventions came about. Were they trying to solve a problem? Were they trying to make something easier? Were they trying to, make things run smoothly, take out some steps? So what you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm. The very first assignment, I don't want you, unless you've been thinking about one your whole life, like putting your socks on or, something like that. But I want you to start brainstorming. So this week, I want you to kind of just experience your life day to day. Look around. What kind of chores do you have? What do you do every single day? You eat, you brush your teeth, maybe you make your bed, maybe you help do a chore or 2 in your house. How could you make those better, easier? Is there something you could do to add to it? I want you to really think about it. Now, I linked on the additional supplies something called a brainstorming web. I don't have it here where we could pull up, but it'll have a center. I'll cover my mouth. In the center, you could write what your idea is. So maybe something that you really are going to try to brainstorm is socks. Putting my socks on. So you'd write that right in the center. And then out from the web, who makes a web? Spider. So out from the center will come these different offshoots. And in each one of those, you could write something like, it hurts my hands, or sometimes the socks are too tight, or, so on all these different things, you'll start thinking of things that might have to do with putting on your socks. Then you'll start to go the next level out and think, how can I fix that? Okay, so my socks are always too tight. Maybe I could have something that stretched them out a little bit before I put them on. Maybe it hurts my hands. Maybe I need to use something so I don't have to use my hands. So you'll start thinking about that, and you'll kind of have that idea of Leonardo da Vinci in his notebooks where he just wrote down ideas and just let his mind and his ideas flow. Now, no idea is too crazy, but I want you to come up with an invention that you could actually create. Now, every single one of you guys could say, I want to invent a flying car. Yeah, people are working on that right now out in the world, right? When I was a little girl, I thought that maybe by the year 2000 we would have flying cars. Not yet. Maybe someday. You guys need to think of an actual practical invention. So this week while you're brainstorming, look around you. Think of ideas. Think about things that have been invented, but you guys are going to think of something. Then next week, I will have a presentation for you that will have a whole bunch of kid inventions that might get you inspired. Did you guys know that because of kids, just like you, we have things like earmuffs and the trampoline? There's so many inventions out there that came about because of kids that had a great idea, kids that were kind of thinking out of the box, kids that saw something and figured they could do it differently, or maybe they could make it better, make it their own. So we'll have a whole bunch of different videos and ideas to kind of give you some inspiration on those kid inventions. Okay, so this week you're going to be thinking, if you already have a great idea, great, start brainstorming, start getting it planned, start figuring out how you're going to make that work. Then next week will be just kind of a fun lesson where you guys can see some of the kid inventors. You can think about that. And then you'd be working on, and you need to actually create a prototype. What's prototype? Prototype? I'm not hearing you answer me. You want to create an example or a sketch, or you can actually put something together of your invention. So this is why you have a lot of weeks to do it. So for example, one of the videos that we'll show you next week has a girl, and some of you guys that have taken my Bringing Books Live class, we actually watched this video, but there was a girl that invented, she wanted to be able to shovel the walk or shovel her driveway with her feet. So she created some boots and attached some shovels to them. And so she could just shovel along and she could shovel the snow with her boots. So that's one that you'll see next week. So you guys can create a prototype. Now, the first thing you'll want to do is sketch your idea out, get it down on paper, not only your ideas, but then sketch it out. So she probably sat down and thought about boots. Maybe she needs a shovel. Well, I can't use this huge shovel. I'm going to need some small shovels. So how do I do a small shovel? And then how am I going to attach them to my boots? So these are all ideas, and these are all the steps that you're going to need to think it through. How am I going to make this happen? How is it going to go from in here to paper to real life, or at least some kind of prototype? So if you can, with the supplies you have around you, or this is why, like I said, you have 3 whole weeks to work on this. I want you to create some kind of a prototype. Now, for some of you, that may not be possible at all. So sketch it out. Sketch it out, draw it out, diagram it, use your very best work, best handwriting, best clear coloring markers, so that we can see it, because you are going to be able to show it to everyone else. So we're still working out the details of how that will be, how you'll be able to show your invention to our classes. We're still working that out, but you will be able to share that, maybe even demonstrate it if it's something that you could create, if your prototype. Does that sound fun? You guys, I think this is going to be really fun. Now, this would have been awesome if we had been able to finish school with this and have kind of our invention convention, but we're going to make it work. We're going to make it. This is still a great idea. You guys have awesome ideas, and we're still going to figure out a way that we can share those inventions with some of our classmates on our Da Vinci days. So let's just kind of do a quick review. So Leonardo da Vinci, he was awesome. What we're going to take from him this week is his ideas of creating inventions, something that could help us out, something that could solve a problem, something that could make our life easier, kind of like we talked about in the very beginning when we started this review, or started the review. You can make things better. You can change. You can create something to make you comfortable, to make your life easier. So that's what I want you to do. You can use that brainstorming web to get your ideas down. You can just use a regular piece of paper, but I want you to sketch it out. I want you to think it out, but you got to think of the steps. it's great if you think, like we said, we use the flying car, for example. I'm going to draw a flying car. That's great. But what I really want you to think about, maybe that could be a secondary one, is what's an invention that you could actually use? I mean, I could use a flying car for sure, but what's something that you could use? What's something you could use at your house and in your family? So I want you to be thinking about that. I want you to get those ideas down this week. If you want to start working on it, you can. That's totally fine. You don't need to let me know or anything. Just kind of be working on this in the background. When you watch your video for next week, you'll be able to see those videos of the kid inventors and kind of get some inspiration of what other kids, just like you, have invented. Some maybe have even gone so far that they become a product that some of us use, like a trampoline. And then the following week, so this is week 29. Week 30, we will watch the inventor videos. Week 31, we're going to actually do a review game. So look forward to that. So on that day, we'll just kind of go back and review some of the things we've learned about in history. Maybe we'll have a little bit more on the inventions, and then be watching with an email from your location's ES. So you guys know who your ESs are? I'm talking to kids that go on 6 different Da Vinci days. So 6 different ESs on all the different grades. So all different teachers. But you guys watch for an email that will let you know how we're going to share those. I'm not sure right now. We're still working through those details because there's a lot of kids, and we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to have their invention seen that wants to. So does it sound like fun? Okay. Let me know how you're doing. If you do have questions, or if you need maybe some clarification, just send me an email and we'll talk about it. Okay. That sounds good. Thanks, guys.